hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it.
Hi.
Hey, Ryan.
How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Not much. Just a rest day. Got my 400 tomorrow, about 7 p.m. Paris time. So, no, I'm ready.
Oh, man. I was really looking forward to today. We're like seconds away. I mean, we're live right now, so we might as well say it. Here we are, live again, world's greatest live stream. We have another medalist in front of us here. Ryan, tell us all about it, man. First of all, who are you and what do you do?
I am Ryan Medrano. I am a T38 athlete for the inventory for Team USA. I run the 100, 400, and line jump.
Man, oh man. I was like that race. Break down the race for me for a second, if you could.
So before the race even started, we come out into the stadium and it's packed. It's fantastic. The people are loud. They're cheering. We have a French athlete, so they cheered for him the loudest. That was crazy. But before we even started, we had to get back up twice. We had a couple things they had to sort out, and the guy from China was wrapping a exercise band, which I didn't even know was allowed, around his leg to keep it, I guess, in place for a hamstring injury. It looked like, and then they were asking why the guy from Great Britain, I think his last name is Young, was not putting his foot on the block. He's like, I'm a 238 athlete. I'm not able to put my foot on the block. Hello.
Hey, Chase. Chase, we're getting right into it. Ryan was here, so we're like,
I've been watching.
Go.
I just couldn't figure it out like last time.
So let's finish this breakdown, and then Chase, we're going to introduce you.
So it goes from this crazy loud stadium. You hear them saying your marks and stand behind your blocks, and it goes quiet. And as soon as that gun goes off, we just hit it. I got out great. Got out a little bit low once I actually rewatched the video, but got out great and just ran my race. The Colombian guy got out even better than the rest of us, but he just didn't held it together. That 0.02, I think, was the difference between me and him, and 0.03 was the difference between second place and fourth place. So that was a close medal. That was close.
And those last, because it looked to me, just layman watching, but it looks like those last 20 meters, is where you kind of really, really closed. And as I know, since we've been doing all this work, it really is you're slowing down less than other people are slowing down, right? So it's not
Yes.
necessarily like you've already hit your top end speed. You're just trying to hold it at that point.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I've been working a lot with Coach Mack. I'm new, but relatively new to track, and I had miscommunicated when starting track. It was like, "Hey, I'm breathing out, and it feels like I'm losing a lot of force coming out the blocks." And they were like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to breathe out like that." But I didn't ask them to elaborate. So for the longest time, I'm in El Paso training on my own and holding my breath to 30 meters, and then breathing out, finishing my 60-meter rep, 50-meter rep, and I'm seeing stars. Trials. My coach is like, "Why aren't you breathing?" I'm like, so I've been working on that, getting that drilled into my head. And every time I push out the blocks, I have to breathe. Every drill I do, I make myself breathe. I'll be walking down the street in the village. And I'll just start pumping my arms and breathing. Like, I am drilling that in. So it's about the race from start to finish. You don't win in the first 30 meters. The first 30 meters can really dictate the next, 70 meters. So it really is that last, 30 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters, that lean at the end that gives you that extra, 200ths of a second that go from, fourth to silver. So
Amazing.
that's how it broke down for me.
That's amazing. Chase Jackson, you're back on. Thank you for coming on again. I was excited to have you on with Ryan. I thought this was going to be a kind of a nice matchup of two interesting people who like to laugh and have some fun and are at the top of their game.
Sometimes.
So, hey, Chase, tell us a little bit about how, well, first of all, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about what these last kind of 4 or 5 weeks have been like for you.
Not good. No, I'm just kidding. Chase Jackson, shot put, 2-time world champion, Olympian now. Yeah, it was good. I think the Olympics was kind of obviously rough because, qualifying, I didn't qualify when, I should have done. But that's sports. And, I went back and threw the second furthest throw in U.S. history at Lausanne last weekend. So that was good. But yeah, it's just been training and trying to move on.
But Chase, I mean, when I saw you that throw in Lausanne, I'm like, okay, all right. The world is all good again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just in qualifying everything was set up, like I was warming up fine, warming up big. I was on the outside the stadium warming up and was throwing like really far and perfectly fine, and then stuff happens, and I think I might have underplayed qualies too much.
Interesting. Well,
It's also hard when you're a favorite in it. Like,
well, I was going to ask you that.
Different.
The idea of being the favorite and pressure on you, and Ryan, you going into your race. Why don't you guys, let's talk about that, like the pressure that happens going into your event, and let's start in the qualifiers.
I had 2 straight finals. I got lucky, almost blessed. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because, if you think about it, if you have a prelims, you get to get that jitters out if you've never been in front of 70,000 people, and you get to run that race and make you. Yeah. When I'm also blessed with the experience of having cameras fall on me for 24 hours for 18 days. So I kind of, you learn to focus on what you need to focus on and prioritize where your mental energy is going in high stress situations, and that's something I had to deal with and multitude when I was in Survivor. So coming into the stadium, I really just drank it in, enjoyed myself, and I'm a really happy-go-lucky person. So I just really took the time to enjoy it and then flipped that switch and zoned in. I was honestly, I think, more nervous at trials during my 100-meter, and there was like nobody there. It's the feeling of being prepared that I have here that I didn't have in trials, and really turn it on and turn it up when I get out there. So that's how I felt. I don't know how my forehand's going to feel. I can definitely tell you after though.
Yeah, I think for me, like with number one, I was like, why don't we get a repechage? I was telling everyone, damn it! Like, why can't we get one? But yeah, I think for me, it was like I've never struggled with it. Like going into worlds and all that, like everything was fine. Like every time I've done a qualifying or whatever, like I've never really had an issue. I think it was honestly like I felt really good. I didn't feel that much pressure. Like I felt pretty nice. Like I was like fine, comfortable, throwing well. But I think what happened was like I told some of my friends this. Like I had like the one foul, which was kind of like whatever. Like I was like kind of went for it, whatever. But it was over the qualifying line, so I was like clearly I'm fine. And then when I had the second foul, I don't think I've never been in that position, which it's like one of those things where I was like, shit, like I've never been here. Like, what do I do? Like, and I think I went to like my husband because he was filming and I was already freaking out. And, he was like telling me words, but like in his eyes, panic. Like, he was like, because they're not used to me not being fine all the time, like
Yeah.
Paul and my husband. And I went to him and he was like, no, you're fine. Like, you do this all the time. But like, I was like, oh no. So then I went to Paul, like, Paul will bring me down. And Paul was just as like, as my husband. And I was like, oh no, none of us know what to do in this situation. And it's clear, like, so Paul's like, just go for it. And I did the opposite. I just went way off of it, and I haven't thrown under 20. I hadn't thrown under 20 in training or, at a meet in months. So it's just a weird situation. I felt fine. It was just after the two fouls, I was not fine anymore. Like full panic, lost all my like sense of like you're an athlete, like you've done this, like you've thrown this ball like a million times, get over it. Didn't happen. So
But this is first of all, thank you for coming on and talking about this, right? So this is athletics. Like this is how it goes sometimes, right? And just to put yourself out there on that stage, right, in front of all of those 70,000 people, right?
yeah.
And I mean, we talked before, right? I mean, you came on, I think, 2 days before, or maybe even it was the day before. But, and you talked about the idea of 70,000 people and, you're what, 7-time national champion?
Yeah.
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 7-time U.S. national champion, 2-time world champion, now an Olympian. So it's obviously nothing. This is just a tiny, tiny bump in your road. But
It just sucks though, because
I
everyone, the
know.
Olympics is on this pedestal, isn't it? Even though
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've competed against the same people at Worlds and I've won like 4 global medals in 2 years, but like, like everyone just like immediately thinks like you failed. But I think my reaction to it has been like what's kind of helped a lot of people. And so like I'm honestly like I said like God's plan, whatever, like I'm not gonna question it, like it is what it is. And so I think going through it and like I've had a lot of good feedback and I've been helping like a lot of people who like, like when people fail, I think people love like flowers and butterflies and rainbows, but sometimes it's nice to see when people fail and you can teach people a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm just using it
Definitely.
for that. Trying to be positive.
No, I mean, being honest and, yeah, and kind of open, I think is a good thing, right? The raw emotion of it, that hurts, man. All that training, all that work, right? And the elation that you saw, Ryan, on your face at the end of that race, and even in for hours and hours after I saw a lot of the photos and everything, I'm like, right. So this is athletics. This is the full spectrum of emotion that us as human beings go through. You guys are putting yourself out there on the biggest stage, so there's going to be the beginning and the end, and some of it, like, I mean, the full spectrum, but some of it, Ryan, like you're talking about, talk a little bit about Survivor, because I think that's you brought that up today, right now. And I think, talk a little bit about that experience and how you've pulled some of that into, or maybe that's just your DNA of how you pull that into athletics.
So, I'm a fighter from birth, born 3 months early, fluid on the cerebellum of my brain, the cerebral part of my brain, caused mild cerebral palsy. My grandma was the one that actually noticed. 10 months, she came to visit at my 10 months. She's like, he's not even rolling over. This isn't normal. My mom was like, I'm raising two other kids. I didn't even notice. They took me in, put me in a little tube and scanned my brain. It was like, oh yeah, he's never gonna walk. So, just adversity throughout life and growing up with that, but never having a negative outlook on it. I never really was like, woe is me. And that's because there wasn't room for it. I wasn't really taught that. That wasn't part of my home life. My mom was just like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, keep going. Come on, Wendy. And they'd call me Wendy the whiner. I'd whine a lot. but so growing up, I learned to be tough. I was the middle child. I was bullied a lot. So when you get to a point in your life where you finally find, or at least you think you find who you are and you're comfortable in your skin, it allows you to really flourish and put yourself out there, like you said, on the biggest stage. And by doing so and surrounding myself with people I love and people that, will tell me what's what, eventually I ended up on Survivor telling my story, and out there, it is like Olympics, Paralympics, amazing, fantastic. Like the joy I've gotten from it, the satisfaction I've gotten from it is fantastic. But the nerves I have on Survivor, like every time somebody's having a conversation that you're not a part of, your heart starts racing. You're like, are they talking about me? Did I not do something right? Are they in an alliance that I don't know about? And if you've seen my season, a few people were very
Yes.
early on in an alliance I
Yes.
didn't know about. So I've been in high stress situations for long periods of time. You have to find a way to uh, kind of compartmentalize, just take it apart, focus on it when you can, and put your mind somewhere else when you can't. So being able to do that in athletics, like through the pain, through the discomfort, um, through not only as athletes are we dealing with the strain of recovery, the strain of training, trying to get proper nutrition, having bad days, the weather being either too cold, too hot, too wet, or too windy. We also have a life. We are human. We have a social life. We have a love life. We have a family life, and those also weigh on your mental stress. So really bringing that in and learning a lot about myself through para track and field, and learning about myself through the psychology and the questionnaires and the people I got to talk to through Survivor, to make sure after the game you're all right and how you were through the game, so that you can then analyze it and be okay to come back into society, really was a humanizing experience. It's really allowed me to, sometimes I am prideful and I'm not perfect, but and give me some time and I'll take a step back and I'll go, okay, yeah, I definitely need to fix this or fix that. Sports, easy for me to constructively criticize, but like I said, I'm not perfect. So it's been able to really help me become the best version of myself on and off of the track, so that when I get to competitions like this, I don't have any doubts in myself. I, do, what's the word? It's, my brain's not working. It's the CP, I swear. You can do visualization training for perfect races, and you can also do visualization for two fouls and your husband and your coach looking at you like this. And those are some things I have done. I've practiced that since I started, and I think that's one of the reasons I'm able to compete at this level, is that visualization training has allowed me to excel way quicker than I probably should have been able to. But that is both for, I cannot remember the word they use for it. It's basically tragedy, almost like a tragedy event. Like something bad goes wrong, but you still envision yourself finishing the competition and doing your best and allowing yourself to feel that emotion in a raw state, but then breathing and compensating for it has allowed me to really get out there and really push.
Hey Chase, that's really cool, Ryan, to learn more about that. The especially the Survivor experience. I'm very curious about that. But Chase, are you familiar with like all the different classifications in Paralympics?
Like which? Para track and field? Yeah, like most of them, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things
I
in
like paras. I love it. I've been
so
posting about it every day.
so yesterday with Beatrice Hatch, we had her on the show, and she talked about how so few people know about the different kind of classifications,
It was on
and
Instagram too. Everyone was like, there was just this argument about, there was just an argument about it, and everyone was going off. It was really obnoxious.
well, the more that I learn about it, the more I feel like, oh, I have such a better understanding of like the competition I'm actually watching,
Yeah.
so Ryan, tell us a little bit about CP in your classification, and then the rest of the classifications kind of within your event, within the 100 and the 400.
So I'll do the best that I can because again, I'm relatively new. I stick within my classification. I know there's visually impaired, ambulatory, above the knee, below the knee. And there's all the scientific names for it as well. But for my classification, it's T38. It involves both cerebral palsy and traumatic brain injury, TBI. And usually those disabilities result in some type of restriction and passive range of motion in either one or more limbs. For me specifically, it's going to be in my hips, my hamstrings, my right arm, and my right leg. For the longest time, I thought it was my strong side, and I just learned it's my brain not being able to communicate properly and constantly sending signals to it, making it tight, which has made it quite stronger, but the range of motion's not there, and it really cramps up or it fires incorrectly sometimes, especially when I'm doing things that sometimes don't even include the muscle that's cramping. I can't even floss sometimes without my arm shooting out. So, but for me and my classification, you'll have a lot. You go from T38 all the way down to T35. T35 has the most severe of the cerebral palsy or brain injury group. So they're going to have a lot more restriction with their range of motion. Two of my good friends, both Matt Payton and Brianna Saranaro, if I'm saying that correctly, um, they are both T35s, and you can see their disability. Their disability isn't what you call an invisible disability. Myself, and a lot of the T38s you will meet. We have been blessed enough to have the disability, but not have it affect us quite as much. But we also have, over the years, learned to compensate to look like everybody else. If I'm not overstepping, speaking for anybody else, I know when I'm overtired or when I'm not thinking about compensating, walking with my feet straight, 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 I'll walk all pigeon-toed, and then my arm will swing all wonky, and my left leg limps, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of look, like I'm a T37 or T36 right now. Let me fix my walk and the gait of my walk. So for me, and for others, such as Nick Mayhew, I know when I've seen it a few times. He overtrains. We finish a 400, and both of us are just sitting there with extreme migraines or extreme headaches for a while after our race. Mine can break down not only into physical pain, pulsing in my head here, but also blurriness of vision or sensitivity of light causing nausea. And then on top of that, usually where I feel it the most, where I can't necessarily control what it's doing is in my hamstrings completely. They'll lock up, and I'll either have to have somebody stretch it out, or I just literally, like after trials, I just stood on a fence and kept moving my legs like this so that they wouldn't have time to just completely seize up on me. And it took about 15, 20 minutes to be able to walk around. So um, each disability is different. Each disability has its own complications and its own, you know, burden on its own, and we each deal with it differently because we're each individuals ourselves. But I would never say I'd put down my burden to pick somebody else's up. Definitely would, put that.
Chase, what's your take on what Ryan is sharing there?
Yeah, I can't. I can't like relate, but I can. I like have watched, so like I kind of get what he's saying because I know that was like the argument on the social media was a guy getting moved, I think, from like T37 to T38, and he wasn't happy about it. But I just want to know, like, how do they like determine? Like, do you have to go take tests like to determine your like mobility and stuff?
So for classification, what you have to have is your diagnosis and then evidence regarding your diagnosis. I've been through classification 3 times due to the military. So when my mom married my dad, military got all of our paperwork. They didn't transfer over my diagnosis from early on like they should have, but they did notate in the military history or military facility referring to my diagnosis. And from that, I got my neurologist and I did another scan and he wrote his expert level of what he saw and why it affects me, along with a radiologist that read the MRIs as well. I have the MRI disc. You turn that in as both your diagnosis and your evidence, and then you go through both an Ashworth scale. You lie relaxed, and they do passive range of motion on all your limbs, and they'll take a number of how restricted or how much your body catches as you move. My arm and my leg on my right side, and it's a tiny bit on my left side, um, they will like stop even when I'm relaxed as somebody is trying to move my arm. Like even now as I do it, it like will it's like when my
Mm.
left side's just quick. I
Mm.
also have it in my ankle as I do ankle circles. It will do this. Just yesterday, I was pouring creatine for somebody, and I can, when I'm thinking about it, do this easy, like turn the car key. But I went to do the scoop and was really trying to focus on not spilling it, and my whole arm turks. And Justin goes, "Is that your CP side? Because oh my goodness, your whole body was turning just to pour that little scoop." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention." So they'll do that, the Ashworth scale, do numbers, and they do a neurological test. They give you things that you are not necessarily familiar with doing. One of my worst ones is trying to rotate a tennis ball in the hand by itself. Even doing it without the tennis ball, not all my fingers are moving, and my bicep is tensing up. But as I do it, they notice that my arm comes in, and I'm like, I turn because I'm trying to concentrate on one thing that I'm not used to doing. And walking backwards, toe to heel, I will almost fall over 95, 99% of the time. But again, that's for my classification. For me getting classified specifically, that's the first section. And then they have you do they watch you compete and or watch you basically do your events. 100, well, for me, it's 100, 400, and long jump. And you have to at least put enough to do, I think, 80% of your personal record. So let's say you ran, let's just for easy numbers, 10 seconds, you would have to run, or 11 seconds, you would have to run at least like 11.25 or 11.3 to
Mm.
get to that 80% so that they can watch you while you're actually putting enough effort to show your disability or if you are not disabled enough, which is a weird term in my opinion. So that with that, they decide which classification you go in. And it really is a hard thing to do with a CB class, in my opinion, or at least from what I've heard. Again, I'm relatively new. In my opinion, each disability is different. So it's hard to put you in such a small, T38, 36, 37, 36, 4 groups. And it's not just like that for my classification. Sometimes, like I think Nick Mayhew had said, their words, quote unquote, uh, is that they'd rather disadvantage him than disadvantage a whole classification.
Yeah,
I've heard that both.
that's what I saw him post that. It just came on my For You page and I just was like, "Oh, that I like was like I don't understand at all like what's happening." But like
So
I knew what he
basically,
was saying, but I was like, so if you are too fast, do you think they then are kind of like, "Wait a minute, hold up."
so in my opinion, you can watch Jonathan Young, the previous, I think, world champion for Tokyo. You can see his form and the way he runs is way different than the rest of us. But he is fast. He's very fast. But the reason his form is like that is because his body has more restrictions than we do. So your muscular structure and how your body moves and how limber you are or your range of motion does change your ability to produce force in certain angles, which will change how you run. So it's really hard, in my opinion, for classifiers to accurately really put you into a classification. So they do their best. Sometimes the person being classified and the classifiers don't, um, you know, agree. They have to agree to disagree. Now, if and I wasn't there for next classification, but if it went down that way, I would also be upset if I was him. If they just said, "Oh, wow, that's too fast. We're going to put you as a 37." That doesn't. I mean, a 38. I don't think that's fair in the sense of, oh, it's because of my time. Um, it's somebody could have a really amazing day, especially with disabilities such as our own. Some days I wake up and my back is an 8 out of 10. Sometimes I go to sleep in the most comfortable position that doesn't hurt my ankle. But every once in a while, I have that day where I'm like, am I like 20 again? I don't feel any of my pains. And then it's gone. The next day, it's just as bad. And like I said, I could be brushing my teeth early in the morning or flossing my teeth and my arm will shoot out. So it's really hard to get an accurate, I guess, say reclassification or change classifications based on the speed of somebody. I think it should have been done more in depth, gotten, obviously he has the hole in his brain, and they should have really done an in-depth classification as well, like a reclassification. Because like I said, I've been classified 3 times. Every time they've put me in T38. And that was due to miscommunication between classifiers and what type of documentation they needed. And each time I went, they're like, "Oh, we actually need this." I'm like, I don't know if you know how hard it is to get a neurologist appointment in America, but I do. There's a 6 month waiting list, and I had to
Wow.
flex being on Survivor before they called me back. I mean, not even kidding. I just went in there with my insurance. I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. This is my story." And at the end of that evening, they called me. I was like, "That's messed up. Like, now you guys can see me." But like I said, each thing is different. So he has the right to feel how he feels. Everybody has the right to feel how they feel. And the more questions people ask, like yourself, Chase, it's better for us. We're allowed to express how we feel. And I, being a newbie, I'm not probably the best person to talk about it, but I've definitely had conversations with people in the aspects of classification. To give you another uh, example, my friend Simon, he is, in my opinion, should be at 35. And they put him, I think, in 36 or 37 because his disability didn't fit the box of description for
Wow.
35s. But he was more disabled, in my opinion. He can't lay down without his arm flailing up and down because of how his body responds to his back being straight. He can't take an MRI without being strapped down. But they put him in a higher class
Hmm.
because, well, you don't fit this box in this box. So I do think there needs to be some restructuring of how they classify certain things, because the human mind and disability is such a broad spectrum, especially with things like cerebral palsy or traumatic brain injury. We still don't understand the brain. So how are you going to say you need to be A, B, and C when there's not enough letters in the alphabet to diagnose us perfectly?
Yeah. See, the more you learn, the better it is. I
Yeah.
mean, not that we have all the answers, but even with we were talking yesterday, Grace Stark and Beatrice, and Grace is a 100-meter hurdler. She's an Olympian, and to hear them kind of talk about where I always ask that question, right, Chase? What does it take to be the greatest? Which I'm going to ask again today. But I had Grace go first. She kind of talked through her stuff, and then Beatrice is like, I'm I agree with everything that Grace said, but there's this whole other side for me and for other athletes on the Paralympic side. And she's like, it could be too hot, and that creates like sweat in my prosthetic, and now I don't know if it's going to stay on during the rate or during the jump or the rate, right? And and she's like, I actually jumped, so her uh, bronze medal winning jump she did on a blade that was cracked. So, but she knew it was cracked, and um, they had sent her a new one, but she didn't like the feel of it. So she's like, "I'm gonna jump on the other one." And he's like, Well, it actually might crack on you. It might break entirely. And she's like, I'm just going for it. But that's like a whole other
That's
factor,
hard though.
right? That you have to
I
like.
definitely,
That's hard as hell.
definitely,
To
yeah, I
be
definitely
honest,
have to agree
I did that on a
because
broken leg.
yeah,
Right?
training too cold for at least for me for having cerebral palsy. On the start line, my hand doesn't open up when it's too cold, and it can't hold weight. So I've been practicing in El Paso when it's winter season and trying to get set on the blocks, recording myself, and go up and completely fall over. Like, and again, that's with a quote unquote invisible disability. But if you saw me that day, you would be like, "There's something wrong with this guy. He's having to start with his hands like this because he can't hold the weight like this because his hand keeps falling in like it's stuck or cramped." And that's just with the cold. Like I can imagine too much sweat, or I can't imagine technically having too much sweat or your weight fluctuating so the suction of your leg doesn't stay on, or the change of a wedge in a blade, or the
Right.
alignment of your blade just doesn't feel. I couldn't imagine not being able to feel my foot hit the ground, and they're having to not only do that but do it at such a high level that they're launching themselves to the air, pass down the track. So kudos to them, 110%.
Yeah,
The
my father-in-law, he's a amputee, and we were talking about it, and he's like, I can barely. He's like, my prosthetic bugs me walking around, and they're running around the entire track, and I'm like, listen,
that's
don't
pretty
ask
wild.
me.
That's
I
pretty
could
wild,
never.
right? Yeah. Let's move on to our one of my questions. So Chase, I'm going to still do it with you, but first we're going to do Ryan. But Chase, by the way, you at the moment. So I've asked everybody this question, Ryan. At the moment, Chase, you have the longest answer. Uh, Rose Hollerman at the moment has the closest to 1 minute. Rose Hollerman is a wheelchair basketball athlete. She had like 20 points the other day. It was amazing. So Rose had like a 58, I think,
I thought I did
7.
so good too. I thought I
Hey,
nailed it.
you did nail it
I
for
didn't.
for when we do
I
the
did not nail the task.
for when we cut it down to the minute. All
Hold
right, so
on.
Ryan, here's the question. I got my stopwatch ready.
I have mine too because I'm really excited.
All right. I want you. Why don't you do the stopwatch? So we'll have you guys each do the stopwatch.
I
So,
don't have a
Yeah, I'm
stopwatch
ready.
with me.
all right.
I'm
So
ready. I got it.
ready?
All right.
Chase, you do it to Ryan.
Now I'm nervous. I'm
You
being
know the
timed again.
you know
They're
the
not even running.
question. You know the question, Chase.
I don't want you ask the question. I'm
I'll
being
ask the question. Ryan, Ryan,
consistency.
don't panic. Give us your life story in 60 seconds. Ready?
Oh.
Go.
So, born 3 months early with mild cerebral palsy, raised a military child, and completely surrounded by a loving family that pushed me to be better every day. Learning to be who I was and who I am through adversity allowed me to push myself to turn dreams into goals, which led me from, working in a warehouse to being on Survivor to getting second in the Olympics or Paralympics. My bad, second in the Paralympics. So, being positive and just happy has been a big part of my life as well. So I guess that's it.
What's he at, Chase?
37.
Oh,
That's bullshit. You know
right.
what my answer was? I literally was like, all right, born. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I played T-ball. Literally, I literally gave my whole life story. And I just don't think I understood the problem. I went on for 3 minutes.
All right.
It's like the little quote that goes, "Sorry," it's a little note. And it says, "Sorry, I wrote a long letter. I couldn't think of how to write a short one." And that was it. It's so hard to shorten things, especially
You,
when we have our whole life.
Ryan, I think you.
37.34.
Wait a minute. I think that actually tied Beatrice yesterday, and I made her go again to see if she could get it closer to a minute.
Don't make it go again. That was good. I
All right.
went for 3.5 minutes.
All right, Chase. We're gonna
Jeez, that's
see.
usually me.
We're gonna see. Chase, we're gonna do you again, Chase.
No, I don't want
Ryan, give us the countdown, and I'll do the stopwatch.
All
No.
right, all right. I do the countdown. Ready, Chase? Just take a big
I'm
breath in so
ready.
you can do it like Ace Ventura.
I'm
Three,
ready.
2, 1, go.
July 20th, 1994, I was born. Became an athlete when I was 4, and I've been an athlete ever since. I went to Oklahoma State and did track and field, and then I decided to go pro in 2017, and I wasn't good until 2019, and then I was really bad in 2020 and 2021, and then I got good again, and now I've won 4 medals from 2022 to 2024. The end.
Oh God,
I like the very blatant.
you
I was bad, and then I was good, and then I was good, and then it was good, and then I was bad.
you have the record for the lowest and the highest time. You're going
That's
for
good.
every record.
Oh, now you need the most average time.
I know I
Yes.
need to get right in the middle.
Yeah. That's hilarious. You did
Uh,
pack a lot into 20.01. That's like
I
the
did my Ace Ventura, like you said.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
You'd be like second to Noah Lyles in the 200 on that one.
yeah. Oh gosh, that's funny.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Uh,
The where should we go from here, guys? I got so many questions in my list.
ask your
Um,
question.
let's go to this one. And I'm gonna start with you, Ryan, first, because you're late in this game. So why sprint? Why track and field? Why are you doing this?
So,
Yeah. Why?
jeez, I feel attacked. I never really shy away from a challenge. I got off of Survivor and immediately thought, what am I going to beat somebody at? I need to figure out how to compete at something, whether it's bodybuilding, physique competitions. I am back in the game of competing. This was amazing. The fire that was lit under me was spontaneous combustion, I swear. So then Noelle gets voted off. And she goes, surprise, I was also a lacrosse coach, but I'm also a Paralympian. And with your miles free palsy, you can join me in the 2024 Paralympics. You just have to train really hard. That's all you got to do. So like, that's it. And she's like, yeah, like I'll get you connected with a coach and let's see what he thinks. And we'll go from there. I saw you, compete on an island running through the jungle carrying boxes on your back. You should be good. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And we started, I was already training for, I think, 2 days before she even got there. I was loading up weight on my back, walking up a hill, doing a bunch of squats, walking down the hill and doing that because I was like, I need to keep this jungle body. And I looked so good. And then I ate. And I was like, I had it
Me
bad.
every day.
That's how I feel. And people
Just in
don't
the mirror,
understand there's
like,
also a form of body dysmorphia that comes with being an athlete. Like, I need to be 10 less pounds. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
so her coming and telling me there was this opportunity for me to be the best in the world or something, I was like, say this, let's do this. Like I have always pushed myself to be the absolute best that I can be. I was doing and I was in Alaska. There's still a record in Alaska. I started track actually my freshman year. I did freshman year in Alaska. I have like 3 freshman records over there. Um, and then I did track in El Paso my sophomore year, but I did that for conditioning for wrestling. So I was really focused on wrestling. I placed third in state in wrestling when I was a senior, and that was with being injured half the season and in the medic room recovering. So getting this opportunity to really go for something that not a lot of people can do right after already being on a TV show. I was like, I already got on the I did the math. I was like, I already got on this TV show that only has like 18 people in 43 seasons. There's been more Paralympians than that. I got this. And along the way, people are like, hey, Sally. I love Sally. Really drove me with one of the things she said. I had called her. She's our awesome nutritionist, and this is before I really got my form down. I still have a lot to improve on, but before I started getting fast, 'cause I started, I kid you not, I was running I think 90 meters in about 11:07. So that's another 10 meters left. You know what I mean? So, and that was in Brooks at night, like I said, on Team USA in the dark of the night at Coronado Track with my brother. So I was just so excited. And then slowly but surely it got to the point where I get stopped on the track by Bill from Milwaukee, and he's an older gentleman. He goes, "I have watched you every time I walk on this track go from, just an average runner to somebody that almost runs like art." And I was like, "Yeah, that's one of the kindest compliments I've ever received. I hope I see you here every time I train because you lighten up my heart." And he waves at me every time I see him. So to be able to put myself in a position to be a better version and give opportunities for myself and the ones I love, show everybody that I got what it takes because I've been blessed with the ability to walk even though I was supposed to, and been blessed enough to have parents that want to push you forward. Because not everybody has that. Not everybody even has
Sure.
parents. So I didn't want to let anything go to waste here. I didn't want to let anything, I didn't want any regrets. I mean, even if I tried, got all the way to nationals and didn't make it, at least I tried. So, it just kept pushing me to be that much better, that much better.
That's cool.
Now, if I was over there with Coach Mack all the time, I'd be even faster. But that's not what life gave me. So maybe that's the next goal, right?
Exactly. So Chase, why shot put?
Don't suck the spot.
You could have stuck with sprint. You were a good sprinter back in
He's
back
so
in the day.
inspiring, but mine is my sister did it. So I was like, I'll do that. Yeah, I was really fast. I was a sub 1200 girl. So I could have gone either way, but I think one of the all the multi coaches that talked to me and sprint coaches, it was kind of a lot about like body stuff and how I'd need to lose weight and stuff. And I'm only 17, so like I'm like, ooh, and then the one throws coach I met, he came to one of my volleyball games, I remember, and I thought it was weird that the track coach was coming to my volleyball game because I was getting recruited for track, volleyball and basketball at the time. So I had different coaches like at different games, but he was the only track coach that didn't come to a track meet. He came to my volleyball game. And my mom was like, "He's here for track," and I was like, "Yeah, he's a throws coach at Oklahoma State." And she was like, "Oh, okay, like, I guess," but I guess he just wanted to see like me as an athlete. And he never brought up my body once. He just said like, "Yeah, just be a thrower. You could just kind of do whatever you want, just lift weights and throw that ball, and I'll pay for your school." And I was like, "That sounds better than having to starve myself to become a sprinter, so I'll do that."
I'll
and
tell you that. I weigh 205 pounds. I wish there was more
then I
throws.
got all fat and sassy, and now here I am.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Isn't it funny though? Those I'm so curious on what are those little motivations? What's that little opportunity? And then you guys both kind of pick up on it, and then there becomes what's the motivation behind it? What's that fuel that keeps you going? And so where does that come from for you guys? Like where does the fire, the passion, the fuel to kind of keep this world-class athlete moving forward?
I'm going first because my answers aren't going to be as inspirational and cool as his.
Hey, first of all, I would like to say though, Chase, the fact that you were able to go and know what you wanted, and know the fact that, hey, I don't want to have to lose weight. I know that's going to affect me more than just physically, is a very big reason to pick a sport. There are tons of people that go through not only physical change and physical discomfort, but mental strain and mental illness from having to lose weight for track on any other sport. So I do think that is an inspirational. You can be a voice of, hey, I mean, you don't necessarily have to go in the throws, but do put your foot down. And there's other ways. I am 205, 210 pounds when I sprint, and I am second in the world. So there's definitely a way to keep the weight on and still be fast. You know what I mean? So that is, in my opinion, a great reason.
Yeah, totally. I think it was huge for me too, like in college, because I did psychology and I did write like one of my I was going to do my master's piece on it, and then obviously I became pro, so I stopped doing it. But I was writing it on like body dysmorphia and athletics. So like my friend's doing one now. She's younger. She trains at Luff. But she's like, "Can I interview you? Because I'm doing my paper on that." And I was like, "Sure, dude." Like, because I've already done, like, I know what you're looking at. But yeah, I'm happy with where I've gone now, and like the message I send as an athlete now, I'm pretty proud of. No medal will like compare to that for sure. Oh, motivation. What's
Yes,
mine? Here we
yes.
go.
Good job. You got back on it.
um,
Good job.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
I
was
was just
getting
all
deep and
enthralled with that.
sentimental for a second. um, yeah, for me, I think, I started sports when I was 4. And my mom at first, she definitely was like a stage mom. Like she was a single mom, so like sports, I think, was a good way for her to like be able to like have us do an after school thing, so she could get us after that. Because she worked like 12 hours. So I think she was like, "Yeah, go play baseball," because I'm over it. Like I can't pick you up at 3. I need to pick you up at 5. So I started playing baseball, t-ball, and it was like forced upon me a bit, but like I ended up like finding so much love for just sport in general, and I think it shaped like who I am as a person and stuff. And I think now I had those goals of like, I remember in high school I was like most likely to be an Olympian and stuff, and I just remember being like, yeah, like I want that, like I want like
That's
sport.
cool.
Like sport is just like this huge part of like who I am and stuff. And so like I just want to be the best that I can be as an athlete, and I think that's where a lot of my motivation is just being the best me, like being the best athlete I can be is like all I want to do in my career. And so as long as I'm continuing to pursue that and continuing to like go up and do the best I can do, I'm going to keep doing it. Like the Olympics was like rough, but like all I think is like as long as I move on from it, then I'm still the athlete I want to be. Being able to move on from like that upset is more important to me than just like not having gotten a medal there. I'd rather be a good athlete and be able to continue.
You know, before we get to your answer, Ryan, on that, so we had Jeremy Campbell on, I think 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, with Peyton Otterdahl. So we did like a whole
Be
throwers.
train.
Yeah, it was funny. The he's so fun. Uh, we got to have one with you and Peyton on, Chase, because you guys together crack me up. The
Yeah.
um, but Jeremy, 5-time Olympian, 4-time gold medalist. He's going for his 5th gold. And I asked him that question, like, what keeps you going? What's the motivation? And he's like, well, first of all, he's like, I was a different person, I think, in every Olympics. And he's like, this time I really was asking myself this question of why, you know, why am I doing this? And ultimately he's like, I know I have another big throw in me. So just he's like, I simplified my whole approach. He did devote like a lot of time and effort to kind of mental awareness and mental health and mindfulness. Um, but chasing the one big throw. Like, I'm gonna toss it back to you, Ryan. Now that you have silver, I mean, are you chasing the gold?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I was chasing the gold when I got silver. Like,
Yes, you were.
I didn't come here to get silver. I came here to try to get gold. That's what I'm training for every day in the track. But I've made a couple posts about it. It's like the 10 seconds or the 50 seconds that I'm racing or the 6 jumps that I do. They don't hurt nearly as much as all the training that I do, but that wouldn't compare to getting here and not putting out my best, not showing everybody that has said good luck. We believe in you. Loved ones I have back at home. Even if I fail, as long as I, you know, push my hardest and do my best and go out there, I am going to be still smiling just as big as you saw me on that podium. This opportunity, the experience, the people I'm meeting, the people I get to inspire is one of the reasons why I wake up either early or go to bed late or train at 97 degrees at 7 p.m. in El Paso, because it's just a blessing to be able to do this. It again, like I said, I wasn't supposed to walk. So what else? What better could I be doing with my time than trying to make a legacy for my kids, Aubrey and Atlas? Like I didn't get to see my son walk. I did get videos and stuff like that. And to be fair, this little dude was going at my walking pace, crawling like Spider-Man, and just didn't seem to need to walk yet. But as soon as I left, 2 days later, I got videos of him walking. I'm like, dude, just waited for me. He just waited for me. But he waited for me to leave, and I was like, well, looks like I'm the man of the house now. I got to put my pants on. So to be an inspiration, like when I was on Survivor, Aubrey wasn't really like, wow, my dad's in Survivor. Let me show my friends. But when I started wearing that USA, I come to pick her up, and the coaches are like, hey, and the kids are like, oh, that's him. And then what are they talking about? Oh, I showed them you on Google. I'm like, oh, like it just warms my heart. And the amount of people that reach out to not only congratulate me, but tell me they've been following my story and the good lucks that I get, or the happy birthday wishes from people all around the world. It's that connection that really drives me because without that connection, how human can we be? That's one of our differences from every other animal in the world.
Well, this
That
is
we
what's kind of
drive that
crazy,
connection.
right? This is what's a little wild about social media, right? Because on one hand, it's kind of disconnecting, right? Because we're not, for a lot of different reasons, but we're not physically together, right, on social media. But at the same time, it's very connecting because you're reaching people that you could never reach before and have your voice, out there. And the, I mean, all of your stories, this is what I'm obsessed with the world's greatest. I love telling stories, and I love um, the idea of you guys both basically saying the same thing of like, I want to be the best I can be. I want to be the greatest I can be. And it's on any given day, right? One day you have it and one day you don't. But you may have given everything you had that day, and that's got to be good enough, right? In that moment. It doesn't mean you're not going to go back and work harder, right? And
Yeah.
Peyton said it the other day, Chase. He goes, because I'm like, you've been on both sides of this question I asked, where how do you harness all that effort and talent and skill for that one moment that you need it the most? And I'm like, you've seen both sides of this. He's like, yeah, I've knocked people out to get my medal, and then without Joe's big throw, Peyton would have had bronze, and but Peyton said, he goes, you know what though, Bob? If I got bronze, I would have been like, oh, I'm only 2 centimeters away from silver. So,
Yeah.
right? So it never ends, so
Yeah.
the
Yeah. It's like continuing in it.
as long as that's in a healthy way, right? That constant
Yeah.
progression and desire.
We're always going to want more, though, as athletes. It's in our bones.
It's totally in your bones. The I'm in constant amazement of you guys. I love watching you both. The the joy that I see both of you giving all of your fans is so cool. Uh, by the way, Chase, our little one-on-one live stream is our best live stream in the last 6 weeks here. So out of all,
The
Nice.
only one.
so yeah, so
I'm
out of
famous
all,
now.
but we've done 17 in the Olympics. We're now in day 6 or something in Paris. So we're doing 13 here. So far, you're number one. We'll see if it holds. I have a hunch it's
Get
gonna. I
better.
don't
I got to post on my story again.
know. So we're at 5 minutes left. I want to kind of toss it to you guys to see if you
Can
guys
I ask
have.
you a question?
Yeah,
I want to ask you a question, Ryan, because
Yes.
I haven't been
that's what
able
I
to
was gonna
ask.
do. Pose it to you guys asking questions.
Yeah, I haven't been able to ask a Paralympian this, but it was like brought up on socials or something. Because I have a training partner and she's an F40. Yeah, shot putter. And we were talking, and it's not just about the like participants competitors thing because that bugs me too, but how what do you feel as a Paralympian if people call you an Olympian? Do you care, or do you want to be like, I'm a Paralympian and I'm
Oh,
like, I'm proud of that?
I on
Oh,
social media. He messaged me, and we're Paralympians. There's a difference between Olympics and Paralympics. Olympians put in effort, and so do Paralympians. But I feel that Paralympians also have their disability and the difficulty of not getting the coverage that Olympics gets. We also have a harder time. We have a harder time establishing sponsorships, and the compensation we get is also less um, comparative to like Olympic and NCAA. So it is hard. Me as a not only dad, but I also work part time at Apple. I do side jobs as well because when I am gone, I'm not making money for the house. So it is stressful, not only just because track and field is stressful, but hey, if I don't do well here, I might not be making enough money to make sure my daughter's braces get paid for, because I
yeah.
sacrificed being there working for this. And that's not just a Paralympian thing, it's also an Olympian thing. But I definitely want to give both credit, but we are different. Not in the sense that
Yeah.
one's better than the other, but we are two different competitions. I am a Paralympian. I am at the Paralympics. Calling myself an Olympian or getting the rings tattooed on me isn't what is for me. That is for the Olympics. So I really do my best to correct, and I don't get upset if people don't know. Nine out of, usually every once in a while at the store, I'll have someone say, "Yeah, I know the Paralympics. That's we know this guy from this over here." I'm like, "Wow!" I would rather it be so common that it doesn't blow my mind when somebody knows what the Paralympics are.
Right.
So that's what my
Yeah.
goal is, to correct it.
Mine was people not knowing your guys' symbol versus the rings. People have no
Oh,
clue about that, which blows my mind.
yeah,
Like
it's
they don't get the rings tattooed. That was what I was talking to somebody about it, and I was like, I don't think so. But they have their own thing to get
yeah.
tattooed. Like,
I mean, there are some Paralympians that have done it, but I know the majority of Paralympians are like, yeah, that's not. We do the
I
a
think
heat
there's like
house.
a lot of like pride that should be taken in being a Paralympian. Like the representation for like people is so important. Like I think for athletes in general, of course, like Olympians and just professional athletes in general. But I think for Paralympians, like the like the like messages you can send or like they're so important, I think, to a lot of people that might not be like have access to those messages all the time. And that's why I wish there was more coverage of it, because like I just think like obviously like it's important to me, like the messages I want to send as an athlete. So to me, I think for Paralympians it's like, how many people with disabilities like feel like, good about seeing that kind of stuff, like and I just, I think there's a lot of pride in being a Paralympian, like being able to say that.
Oh, where'd she go?
Oh,
Oh, there she is.
Did I
you're back.
Oh.
did I did I go
You
away?
disappeared for
You
a
what?
second.
We're
Um,
going in and
I,
out for sure. You did too,
But
and I
I
was like,
think
where are you?
that's really important, though, Chase. I think, and this is really why I wanted to bring together a Paralympian with an Olympian on this show to kind of have this conversation, and in a lot of ways to kind of equate you with one another. Right? You're getting kind of an equal stage. Um, and I think going back to what you're saying, Ryan, which goes back to, look, hey, you need to make money. If you can't, this is a full-time job, and you're working part-time, right, in multiple jobs to kind of make this work. But there's got to be a way for there to be money so you can make a living, because you're turning it back around and giving us as viewers, so much joy, enjoyment, inspiration, right? So it just makes sense that there should be more money in the sport.
yeah,
It's
and
funny
that
too because the Olympics, there's none really either
Yeah.
in athletics. Like you're not paying the athlete. They make so much money and they don't pay us. Get out of here! Like that's crazy to me. You know
Hey,
how much money they make and we get nothing.
hey, the
And the
IOC.
Paralympics doesn't even
Yeah.
have the individual streams as much. I'm having to like bounce between like streams, and it's just weird. I'm the coverage is completely different than when I was watching the Olympics. I'm like, this is kind of ass. Like, I don't know. Like, I
Just to
don't
give
want
you
to
an
be
idea,
that guy.
the IOC has a $5 billion operating budget in an Olympic cycle. So
I got $0 from
Yeah.
any of that.
yeah,
And they used my face multiple times.
Ah!
Name and likeness. No. Okay.
yeah, no,
None of that. Got it.
it doesn't. Yeah,
Jeez.
look through their annual report. You will not see much money trickling down
We're
to
just
the
gonna
athletes.
cry once you hang
Zero.
up. We'll be crying.
I can't cry for too long though. I gotta start thinking about my 400.
Right. Oh, I was.
That I'm not
You gotta
getting
get
paid
the
enough
gold if you even
for.
want to check, my guy. You gotta go get a
We-
check. You better hurry up.
We've actually
I
brought
got
you
'em.
down, Ryan. We've brought you down so much that you're just gonna cry your way through the 400.
Yeah, like right before your race.
Are
Be
you in
like,
pain?
oh yeah, by the
No.
way, sad. Here's a lot to be sad about. Are you ready?
I knew this when I came into it, though. I knew this beforehand. I know there wasn't a lot of money in this. That's why I try so hard. Because if you don't get second, third, or first, second, and third, there ain't no consolation prize for fourth place. So
Well, I try to tell
some
people too, like with track and field in general, I was like, I'm in field, but I'm also a thrower, which is like the lower end. So like I do well because I have competed well and like done well, but like most of the throwers I know are all working, and like you're on the circuit, even some of them that are on the circuit, like they're working. So I'm like, oh, we feel you, bud. Like
yeah,
as
yeah.
throwers, we feel you.
I'm
So
blessed though because my job does work with my training schedule and with me leading.
Yeah.
Like they did a whole like announcement when I left for my last day to come here, and they like drew me a self portrait, like a portrait with me holding the flag and everything. It was fantastic. So I am
Oh, that's
supported,
so cute.
and I wish more athletes had that. I'm happy. Brianna also just got one of the two men I was talking about before. She just got dappled, so I'm happy for her as well because they're very supportive. And I wish more athletes were provided that opportunity, especially by their employer, because we are representing the United States of America, and your business is in the United States of
Yeah.
America. So you think you could give me some time to go
Like,
train to be best?
take my picture, put it on the wall or something, like whatever.
Like,
Let
come
me
on.
go for a couple of weeks here and there. Like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Ryan, first off, that's one of the reasons we had Brianna on the first show, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to have someone who was not in Paris and did not make the team to kind of tell that part of the story, because her effort, and her being an Olympian in Tokyo, and then I believe they like cut out her classification.
They have a different classification for Taekwondo. She doesn't. She's not. She wasn't able to. So she was a Paralympian
So
in
she
Tokyo,
basically,
and then
her sport ended. So she's like, oh, I got to pick up another sport. So she chose track. So, which
she went
is
from
crazy.
kicking people with the feet to using your feet to go real fast.
That's so crazy to me.
One of the things, Chase, and I think I've mentioned this to you. So Ryan, so I invented this kind of behavioral research tool 20 years ago. I used it for a lot of different TV shows, including Survivor, by the way, and worked for a lot of different TV networks. But now I've dialed it in just with the Olympics and Paralympics. So we have like 1 million data points about how people connect to athletes in all these different sports. But shot put fans in particular are the number one fans of every other Olympic sport and Paralympic sport.
Wow.
So I've been preaching this for 8 years. Ryan Krauser was the first one to hear it. It literally is. They're the most valuable fans in all of the Olympics, not just track and field, all of the Olympics. And I've quantified it.
That's pretty dope.
My thing too, with I try and tell people and athletes, like, be a student of your sport, and I like really mean that. Like, I think it matters, like knowing who's around, like knowing who's doing what, who's like at races and all this stuff. Like, if you want your sport to grow, like you need to have knowledge about it and be able to talk about it to people. And I find that sometimes like people have no idea what's going on, right? Like, and I think one of the reasons that I became close with Noah is because when I met him, it wasn't the usual sprinter like thing where they have no idea who I am, even though I'm their national champion every year. I'm a I'm a world champion. I'm in your face. Like, how do you not know who I am? He like knew what had happened in the few meets before I had met him. He was like, "Oh, congrats on like being undefeated and like blah blah blah." And I was like, "What the heck?" I was like, this person actually like versus the you can tell when they don't know you face, where you're like, hey, like we're at the press conference together and I saw him and I was like, oh, I'm ready for like the usual, like, oh, hey, person I don't know. But he like knew things and to me, I just find it so important because for those reasons, like the respect of your peers, but also if you want people to watch us, then we need to watch us, like
Great point.
that's big.
Mhm.
That's a great point.
He's getting really antsy. You better close this out.
Oh, sorry, my lower back's getting tight. It's not your fault.
We've gone over.
He does this.
But
You got to keep him accountable. Tell him to close it out.
exactly. I like going over.
He's got a race. He can't be sitting here.
We can't. I know. We can't be sitting. We got to get it moving. We're Devin Allen's coming back to co-host with me hopefully for the rest of the
Devin.
week, but we'll see. But Devin's like, look, we don't know how to end this show. We got to figure out an ending. Ryan, we still don't have an ending that's like any good. But one of the things that we do is we do shout outs. Everyone can do a shout out. But then I want to just toss it back to you and you close out the show, just drawing on your Survivor, television presence. So we'll start out with a shout out.
Why can't I? I ran my 400 yesterday in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, so we're gonna have
so
a
you're
battle.
saying he's gonna be faster than me?
This
is
is
it
what I
because he's
love.
faster than me? I did it in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That was pretty good.
That was pretty
good for a big girl.
We're gonna have a challenge. You're both gonna get a chance. All right, I'm gonna do my shout out first. And then I'm tossing it to you guys to battle it out. My shout outs are pretty easy. You can follow World's Greatest on all the socials. You can see that little banner rotating. You know where to find us. Big shout out, though, to Vizio. So if you have a Vizio Smart TV, you can find World's Greatest content on Vizio Smart TVs. If you subscribe to Curiosity Stream, which is like a science-y documentary platform, really cool platform, actually. We're the number one show in the last last month and a half. We've been their number one show. And through them, we're now on Prime Video and Apple TV. So, but for those two, you got to search The Science of Movement, and then you'll find us. So those are
you're really glowing up.
We're doing it. Hey, just like you guys.
You're welcome.
You just got to keep grinding and bring on the right people. It's coming. As soon as we get a sponsor for this show, money's going out the door. I'm tossing it over to you guys. That's all my shout outs.
Me first, because he's more important. He's got a race. So me first, so we can end on the future gold medalist here. I just want to say shout out to Nike and Podium, my sponsors. Oh, and Roll Recovery. Follow Chasey Poosp and go watch the Paralympics.
Yeah, watch the Paralympics. I want to give a shout out to DotFit. They're my supplement sponsor. I've been taking their supplements for the last month and a half, and I've been seeing a huge difference. I got a discount code on my Instagram, fats_track182. You probably see me a couple times somewhere in there. A shout out to EP Cocoon, my recovery center. They're sponsoring me. The last month leading up to this, I had fantastic sauna sessions along with cold plunges for my contrast and some Normatec. Couldn't be here without you. And TrueFit El Paso Sunland Park. They have been giving me a free membership complimentary because I run Team USA for the last almost 2 years. I've been there for about 3, and they started, and it's been fantastic. It's got everything I need. It has a turf area upstairs, free weight, machines if you need them, and it's been great. So I'm really grateful for them. And then shout out to my mama for making these.
Shout out to moms. Shout out to World's Greatest Live Stream too. Sorry about that.
Yeah, World's Greatest Live Stream.
My bad.
Is that our ending right there? Or you guys got a back?
We can just zoom out saying USA.
All right, there we go. Let's just do that.
USA,
USA,
USA.
USA, USA.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya,
Bye.
bye.